Hello, and welcome to Tartan Touchdown, Scotland's conversation with the world of American football. And welcome to our series episodes, where we take you through all of the latest stories, takeaways, and talking points from this week in the NFL. I'm Sarah. I am still absolutely buzzing over Jacksonville's big win over San Francisco. And today I'm joined by Dan, who's probably still trying to make sense of the 40-40 tie with Green Bay. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it feels weird to be buzzing from a tie. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, 40 for the biggest tie post overtime in NFL history. I think it was the highest scoring tie. Anyway, yeah, I mean, yeah, it could have been one for the Cowboys, but yeah, I mean, a tie is a tie. It's not the worst, but it's an improvement for us.
It's an improvement. It's not a loss. So
It's a
really,
step forward. And without CeeDee Lamb as well. Whoever knew that George Pickens could be a WR1?
who not me about 4 weeks ago. So there you go. The more you know. But I think week 4 really had everything this week. We had rookie quarterbacks making headlines, defenses putting on a show, big names going down with injuries, and only 2 unbeaten teams left standing. So grab your headset because we're going to dive right into it so who's in panic mode, and even if the Eagles and Bills could really be our Super Bowl preview. But let's begin with the quarterbacks. So I guess in one of the shocks of week 4, okay, Jackson Dart leads the Giants to their first win of the season and also beats out the Chargers, who are favourites in the AFC, to a 21-18 win. And what? I mean, you said it. You said it last week.
I'm going to say, was it a surprise? It was a surprise to me. No, to be fair, it was not a surprise. I'm glad that Brian Daboll is an avid listener or watcher of episodes, and he tuned in last night and listened to my advice. He knows what's best for him. It was the right decision. I said it last week in a passionate speech as to a Giants fan who disagreed with me, which was really interesting with Gav last week. But it was an impassioned speech I made last week saying that the Giants needed to start Jackson Dart. They did. Was I expecting them to beat the Chargers? No. Was I expecting an improvement? Yes. They obviously improved because they won. One of the big things, obviously, just quick look at his numbers, 15 from 20, 111 yards and 1 touchdown. So it wasn't like a blow the water out performance, but what it was a steady performance. I think what the biggest thing for the Giants was not necessarily Dart's numbers. I thought the Giants looked like they had belief. The players believed in their quarterback and they believed that they could go and perform. And I think that's a massive thing from this. It doesn't matter who's throwing the ball for you. If your team or your offense around about you doesn't believe in you, you're not going to get anywhere. And that offense seemed to think we can do something with Jackson Dart at quarterback, and they did. It was a great win for them. Chargers are a good team. Herbert put up his usual performance, 41 throws, 200 odd yards, and got a touchdown and stuff like that. But the Giants just kind of were steady and done what they had to do. What I also think Jackson Dart brings to the Giants as well is he's a dual threat quarterback. He can run with the ball as well. So he went for 54 yards and a touchdown on the ground, which gives the Giants a different dimension. I mean, that's the Russell Wilson we used to see that was a dual threat. That's not the Russell Wilson that they have now. Jameis Winston isn't that threat. So now the Giants have a legit dual threat quarterback. It changes the whole game plan and it changes teams' scheme against them. I'm not now scheming against a pocket passer, scheming against a dual quarterback. It's going to be interesting going forward to see how teams match up against Jackson Dart now, because we see all the time with rookies that there's no game film on them in the NFL. Teams need to scheme against it, but they don't know what they're scheming against yet. And for the next couple of weeks, Giants will have that advantage until teams adapt to the game tape from these games.
Yeah, I think it's really, I think it's amazing to see, because like pretty much every quarterback that's now coming up is going to be a dual threat, because they're learning they're watching the Lamar Jacksons of the world, they're watching the Josh Allens of the world, and they're going, this is how I win a game, because I have to move my feet. I cannot just stand in that pocket and think that my offensive line is going to protect me. And we'll come on to what exactly that happened to one of those aforementioned quarterbacks in a minute. But I was really impressed with him. That rushing touchdown he did was, he just saw that open and he just went for it through come hell or high water. He was running. That's difficult, because Russell Wilson was getting battered the past couple of weeks on that Giants defensive line. So he just went, I can see that opportunity and I'm going to take it. And that Chargers defense isn't easy either. I think he was excellent. It was a great performance. Yeah, we will see how it continues to work for the Giants.
Yeah, I think the big problem he's going to have is no Malik Neighbours for the rest of the season. He's now done his ACL. He's out for the season. So suddenly the Giants take one step forward. Right, we've got a QB that can maybe do something. Suddenly 2 steps back because they're now not get Malik Neighbours. So it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts to that. going forward, there's a couple of options there. Who's going to be the WR1 for the Giants? Who's going to step up and be that number one receiver that's going to get them the big catches and the big plays? On the ground game, I think they're fine. That itself, Scatterbo again was very impressive again. So he's got an established run game there. He's got Singletary, he's got Tracy when he's not injured. So they've got the established run game that will allow them to he's not going to have to pass the game. He's not going to have to win the game through the air for them. Next week will be interesting at the Saints.
Who didn't look bad this week.
The Saints, the first half, I'll come on to how that maybe have happened later on, but the Saints looked like a functional American football team for at least the first half against the Bills. So it's going to be interesting next week. As I said on the pod last week, this week was a free hit for that if he started. He's
because if you lose, it's against the Chargers. So,
Now, he's beat the Chargers, so the expectation is you need to now go and beat the Saints. Why can you not beat the Saints? So the point I made last week about put the pressure on to have to beat the Saints is actually happening, even though he started this week as well. So yeah, I mean, that was a good test from last night. He now needs to follow that up and not just show it was a one-off performance and he's a debut type thing. So if they go to the Saints and win again next week without Malik Neighbours and they play well, then I think there's a bit of a rosy garden for the Giants in some aspects, but obviously, like I said, Rose is a big loss for them.
See how they... Oh yeah, you're exactly right. See who steps up and can move into that kind of wide receiver one position for them. And then I guess we can talk about, I mean, Russell Wilson is obviously benched. And he, I mean, potentially maybe a candidate for replacing somebody. We'll see. But let's talk about how the Ravens O-line is in a bit of a crisis. And then obviously that leaves Lamar Jackson completely vulnerable. And we are potentially, I mean, the last I just looked up before we started, they haven't really announced anything, but it looks to still be a hamstring injury, which they've not said anything about. Which I guess when we're talking about Joe Threat quarterbacks, he is your Joe Threat. And where does that really leave the Ravens now, especially in a in a division we thought was probably winnable for them with the state of the division around them, and with the Steelers winning obviously in Dublin. I don't really know where that puts the Ravens.
What's happened
now
to the Ravens is they've been dragged down by their division. That's what it is. No,
you can't do it. No, calm down.
Rather the team being rising to the top, the Browns have dragged the Ravens down with them. That's what's happened here. Yeah, it was a strange one last night.
The Bengals said if our quarterback's injured, yours is too.
That's it. If we're not happy, nobody's happy. One of those ones.
Exactly.
Strange one. I mean, obviously they're up against the Chiefs last night, right? So Chiefs obviously no mugs. It wasn't as if they lost a game where you're like, oh, they should have won. Well, I still think they should have won it based on the strength of the both squads. They weren't beaten by a team that were lower down, or I forget a poor record. The Chiefs did have a poor record, but, by the by that point, John. But the Chiefs just got at them. I mean, you just said, so there was 8, I'm not sure exactly how many of these hits happened before Lamar Jackson out of the game was injured, which we'll come to, but the Chiefs got 8 hits on the quarterback last night.
Yep.
Means 3 sacks as well. North Carolina seemed to just get through it well. He had 4 hits on the quarterback last night. So that offensive line was letting the Chiefs, and this is also a Chiefs defensive line with Chris Jones, who turned up at the stadium about 10 minutes before the game started.
10 minutes before.
Do you know what I mean? And he started the game. I mean, probably one of his more quieter games with one tackle, he's not sure, he still got 2 hits to the quarterback though. Do you know what I mean? This is a Chiefs defensive line that can get at teams. So if you're going to make it easy for them, then they're just going to destroy you. And that's kind of what happened. I mean, Jackson needs to use his legs generally to play, but last night he was running for his life.
Well, yeah, which is obviously now ended up with him potentially having an injury. Obviously, I would put the Ravens in a bit of a crisis at the moment because that their whole entire offense is based around Lamar Jackson. Do you think right now the point? Well, obviously we need to see what Jackson's state is. Is he out? Can he come back? When does that look like? If you're the Ravens, right, do you think your time is now to try and trade for an offensive lineman or lineman, several of them that are going to try and save your season a little bit? Or if Lamar's going to be out, do you take a quarterback?
The problem they've got is who is out there at quarterback land, right? Because Cooper Rush is not the answer for them. I've seen him up close to the Cowboys when Dak Prescott got injured. He just isn't that. He isn't a QB2. He's a backup quarterback, but he's not a QB2 in terms of the sense
you can't keep him in
not Marcus Mariota, who will step up. Basically, there's a drop off naturally. Marcus Mariota could be a QB1 for a lot of teams this league. Cooper Rush isn't anywhere near that. Who's available is the question. Russell Wilson, Cousins, that's your 2 more kind of biggest names that are available. Are any two of them going to go there and do anything? Kirk Cousins' contract's ridiculous. Are the Ravens going to entertain that? No. Russell Wilson can't even get a game for the Giants. Why do the Ravens then want him? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I'd also say it's hamstring injury. Hamstring injuries could be anything from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. We don't know how bad it is. Anything more than a couple of weeks, I think the Ravens season is done. Because if they go to, let's do, I'm going to pull it now, right? I had this for later on because we've got the panic section later, but I'm just going to pull it now, right? The Ravens, they can't win with Cooper Rush as the quarterback, right? I'll tell you that right now. They're not going to win. Let me just pull up the fixtures. I had this ready for later, but I'm just going to
We're just going to talk about. I mean, I think it is the pressing story right now because everyone before coming into the season, everyone was saying that the Ravens are a Super Bowl or bust this year. They have to make the Super Bowl, or this team needs to completely change something.
So the next 3 games: Texans, Rams, Bears. With Cooper Rush at quarterback, they're not winning one single one of those games. They then go to the Dolphins. They could go to the Dolphins being 1-6.
Yes.
That if they get to that point, their season is done. So if you're missing Lamar Jackson for 3 weeks, your season's done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, because obviously then at the tail end of that, they obviously hit the Steelers again, hit the Bengals again, and hit the Browns again.
I mean, they're running. Obviously, they've got the Steelers they've got the Steelers twice, the Bengals twice.
Yep.
They've also got the Packers in there, the Vikings, who are hot and cold at the moment. Depends what happens at quarterback there. So there's probably 4 or 5 games that you would say if Lamar Jackson's playing, they can win. I think if Lamar Jackson's out for any more than a week, 2 weeks maybe, the Ravens season's done. Cooper Rush isn't going to win any of those 3 games with them, and you're not coming back for a 1-6 record in that AFC to make the playoffs.
No, not with the AFC continuing to look like how it's because it's fully spread out. There's still, I mean, apart from one team running away, but they're running away with the other. They're opposing NFC potential matchup, which we'll talk about them later. But apart from that, there's no one really that looks all that impressive. Everybody looks quite level playing field at the moment.
Yeah, the only thing the Ravens could hope for is the Browns continue to be the Browns, right?
Yep.
Joe Burrow's obviously out. The Steelers are inconsistent. So if the Steelers go on a losing run, then that potentially still keeps the Ravens within the division. But they're relying on favours there if that's what they think is going to happen, because the Steelers obviously 2-2 at the moment, so they're not exactly a million miles away from them. But yeah, I mean, they're going to become a one-dimensional team. I mean, we know how good they are on the ground with Derrick Henry and Justice Hills. He was the leading rusher last night. But a lot of that running game is built around Lamar Jackson as well.
Yeah. Do you? Here's a fun point. If the Browns have a change at quarterback, did they go get Flacco?
That's a very interesting point. That could be interesting. A full circle moment.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying the Browns are going to change their quarterback, because I don't know what the hell's going on.
If Flacco becomes available, I think they do worse.
I also think they could do worse.
I think it would be a no-risk gamble if they go and get Joe. Joe Flacco has not looked good this season, but the Browns, it's the Browns.
Sorry, Brian.
We've seen quarterbacks who maybe we thought were done, going into systems that work for them. Daniel Jones is a good example of it. Joe Flacco going back into that team where he's got receivers that he can throw to, he's got running backs that he can rely on, might actually work. I think that's a very interesting, but I think that's one to watch, actually. I think. Yeah, you've got me very intrigued by that thought of Flacco going to the Ravens if the Browns change up, which we'll come to later on. But yeah, that's an intriguing point. I like that one. Let's keep an eye on that.
We'll see what they do, and we'll see what the Browns do in London, I guess, this week. And that'll tell you all you need to know. Okay, and then Dan, I'll let you shout out and speaking of quarterback, but QB2s, you can shout out your man.
This is a quarterback that I watched in college 2 years ago, and I absolutely loved him on the show. It's Michael Penix. He came in last year, a couple of games, looked okay. Last night, that Falcons offense just clicked. He went for 313 yards, 2 touchdowns. 20 catches were made as a result of his passes, so he connected on 20 throws. It went for an average of 12 yards per throw. He's thrown for over a first down every single time his receiver catches the ball. I'm going to caveat that because a couple of the players got 16, 40-yard patches yards after the catch. But just looking at the basic stats, he's put the ball in a position where they can go and do that. The Falcons offense good. Drake London and Bijan both had over 100 yards in the air. So not only was Bijan good on the ground, in the air. Kyle Pitts hit 70 yards. Kyle Pitts has woke up and realised he's still an NFL player. He is looking the tight end I think the Titans hoped they were getting. He seems to be showing that potential this year. So the Falcons have got the talent on that side of the ball. They just need to be consistent with it. And I think Penix, he's leading that team really well. And I think the Falcons as we've said before, the South is open for anybody to win. Like if we enter the team into any, then we have a chance to win. But I think the Falcons could be clicking and they could be connecting within that offense at the right time, kind of kick on and have a good season. So I think Michael Penix deserves a bit of a shout out for what he's done so far this season with the Falcons in terms of turning that offense around. I mean, obviously they get blown out last week by the Panthers, which we'll come to. It looks like a bit of a random fluke that I think the bookmakers might be looking at suspiciously, but I'm looking forward to see what the Falcons do next week.
Well, yeah, it's like what you were saying earlier, kind of about Jackson. Like, it's just you need when it clicks. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what you just need to turn. You just need to find that 1 week that it all connects up and it all goes. And it looked really well. I think last week must have been a fluke. It must have been something. Something was going on in that water. I don't know what it
Unexplainable.
was.
Yeah, it's up there with the UFO conspiracy theories that the Panthers managed to shut out the Falcons. How did that happen?
How did that happen? It's even like because Jen looking at the Panthers this week, you were just like, what the heck is going on down in Carolina? You're benching your first quarterback again, like after coming off of a momentous shutout last week, and their defense isn't looking good either. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But we will keep an eye on the Joe Flacco thing. I've now put that into the universe, so we'll
You've
see
now
what comes of that.
manifested that.
I know.
You've now
Gosh, my
Brian
manifestation
will be delighted
is.
because Brian is desperate to get rid of Joe Flacco.
Oh, yeah, it's desperate to get rid of Joe Flacco. Oh, because of
think
the
it'd be
4
even more-
quarterbacks they currently have.
I think it'd be even more funnier if he went to an AFC North team because he'd be like, haha, we got that Joe Flacco and haha, now you need to deal with him.
I know.
Then
the
he would
other-
come out and Brian would be like, oh no, we should have got rid of him.
But the only really other option would be that he goes to the Bengals.
Yeah, I don't think the Bengals are going to do that.
Which the Bengals, no, because they won't do it because they'll keep Jake and they'll.
Even if they go for
Anyway.
another quarterback, I don't think Joe Flacco to the Bengals doesn't make as much sense as Joe
No,
Flacco.
it's not.
Bengals
He's
does.
not. He can't be thrown to. He cannot throw to Chase. You can't. No, not a chance.
Yeah,
in hell.
throw full stop, but I know what you mean.
But he's not. Yeah, he's not throwing to Chase. Eventually,
Yeah, but
whatever.
first
It's
year,
just
Joe
over.
Flacco to the Ravens.
There you go. That's it. On the 29th of September, I said it first. I guess I'll briefly shout out that Patrick Mahomes is looking more like himself with that Kansas City offense. Looks recharged. He threw it was 25 out of 38 for 270 passing yards with 4 passing touchdowns, no interception. So I put my passer rating at 121.6. I mean, it's not the Patrick Mahomes you were used to previously, but it's much more like the Patrick Mahomes we all know.
What a
And
difference it
don't
makes when
particularly
you've got WR1 on the field. That's the
Well,
thing. Worthy
that's
back
it.
last night. He went for 5 for 83, averaged 16 yards a catch. Xavier Worthy last night. That's what they've been missing. We know that. No, obviously, Bashir Rice is still out in the fantasy land of being a Chiefs receiver this season, so we'll see what happens with him. But if they get Worthy back up to speed very quickly, last night it showed that he doesn't look as if he's missed a beat. Then that could be a massive turning point for the Chiefs. And then, like I say, it was against the Ravens as well, so it wasn't as if it put those numbers up with a good performance against an average team.
a-
Ravens defense as well, especially in the secondary. The Ravens secondary is very aggressive. Probably one of the best secondaries in the league, and they didn't really manage to stop the Chiefs as much as they would have hoped.
Well, let's talk about somebody who did manage to stop an offense. Let's go talk about defenses. So, week 4 wasn't just all about the quarterbacks. Defenses had their say too, and it felt like really defenses were reminding us they can still win games on their own. I'm going to start off by saying who would have seen this coming, because I didn't at the start of this season, but the Jacksonville Jaguars went to the Bay and did it. We've never won a game in San Francisco in the entire time of our franchise. So I am blown away by this. So we had 4 takeaways, which included 2 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. Those 2 interceptions were both done by Devin Lloyd, who is having the absolute season of his life. Like, I have no idea where this has come from. Obviously, we had Armstead, who was a former Niner. He had the sack, which then became a strip sack, which then was picked up by Aluakon. And then because we had those turnovers, the 4 takeaways we had ended up in 17 points, which is, we're proving the point. Like, if you get a takeaway, you then have to score with
That is
the
the
takeaway.
key point. You need to take advantage of takeaways. There's no point forcing turnover and then putting a field goal after on or going 4 and out. That you need to force these turnovers and make them count, in which the Jags clearly done last night.
Yep. And then we obviously only led them to get 21 points. They're like, the 49ers offense, the 49ers are shaken up. They are injury prone. There are injuries all over the shop. But the second half, they came back and they did look like they were all a bit more clicking. And obviously, you have to take into consideration Purdy's been out, obviously, for the past couple of weeks
Yeah.
of an injury. So he's getting back into the system. So, but it's not like we didn't just go, oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's fine. Because
I think one of the key stats is that he's kept Christian McCaffrey to 49 yards.
Yeah.
And that's even more impressive when he touched the ball 17 times. So he had an average of 2.9 yards per carry. But I was going to say not many teams can stop him, but this season he's still not got a rushing touchdown, which seems crazy to think in week 4. But yeah, that would have been a massive part of your game, is stopping him running. The fact that he was actually their best receiver last night with 92 yards, but you stopped him on the ground, which is a key part of that 49ers game plan when they don't have a wide receiver room at the moment. Is we've got Christian McCaffrey. It's fine. Keeping with 49 yards on the ground is a massive, massive step forward, a massive platform to build on to stop the 49ers from winning.
Yep. And then I guess the overall arching thing is that for us right now, so for the past 4 weeks, we have had 13 takeaways, which is the most in the NFL right now, and we've taken 41 points off of those takeaways.
That's the key stat.
And that's wild to me. That's more 13 takeaways is more we've had in 4 weeks than we had the entirety of the 2024 season. And obviously everyone's talking about Liam Cohen obviously coming in, and like the offense, do not get me wrong, the offense still looks shaky at some points. We do currently not have a passing game. The passing game is not currently there.
Mm-hmm.
But that running game with ETN is wild.
He lost last night, 24 yards on 19 carries. Stupid numbers, absolute stupid numbers. He's not been like, can I chat about the season? Was he going to be RB1? I mean, there was chat of Tank Bigsby before he moved on. They've obviously got Tutu there as well. But ETN kind of stamped his foot last night. Went, no, I'm RB1 here, nobody else. I mean, that was a phenomenal performance last night.
So a very, very happy Jacksonville fan. I also just like Liam Cohen seems to fight for his cause a little bit. Obviously, there was all that scuffle at the end of the
Robert Saleh. Yeah, I mean, like I read that sentence earlier on. It was like he basically was like, keep my mouth out of your. Keep my name out of your mouth, Will Smith. He went all Will Smith on Robert Saleh.
He did. Yeah.
But then I did read it like it was like heated exchange. I'm like, I wouldn't really call that heated exchange. I mean, I kind of read a bit about it at the start of the week where Robert Saleh was saying that the Jags legally steal signs and stuff like that. You're just like, why say that? Every team in the NFL scouts and will look at things to kind of get reads and get. I mean, it's not like in baseball where teams are filming teams and picking up picture signs. That's completely different.
No.
Calling audibles that are on the field, which are clear to see, and the kind of cadences and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just part of the game. It's just the tactics of the game. If you're that worried about it, then change it.
I mean, if you're that, change up what your quarterbacks are shouting. Like, it's not that.
Change up the name of your audibles or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I think it was. I don't know why Salah came out with it. It's something you would think kind of gave him a bit of fire. I feel like his Cohen, like you said, after the game was not happy at all about it. He went looking for Salah. It wasn't just a kind of he came across each other. He did go looking for him. Like you said, that's what the Jags need. They need a leader. They need someone that the players are going to look at and go, "Yeah, a minute, he's sticking up for us. He's got our back." I think it's something the Jags have probably missed recently. That kind of bit of fire, a bit of attitude, a bit of obviously in the old Scottish, a bit of garrulous about their head coach. That's like, that'll be a minute. You're not going to mess with us. This is our team. I'm protective of my team. And I think that's something the Jags needed in terms of that direction. And you can see that the players are buying into it.
Well, yeah, because you can totally tell, like, if you watch any of the post-game locker room, you can see that he has that locker room on his side. Like, they're listening to every single word he says. And then even in our week 2 loss to the Bengals, we posted the post-game locker room chat on a loss. I have never in my life seen a team do that. And I'm like, this is wild to me. But obviously they're doing it for a reason, because they want to prove the point of even if you lose, it's how you come back from the loss.
It's also the optics as well. It's also the optics of, like, we're showing that despite us losing, everybody's buying into what the head coach is trying to do. And look, this is it. This is us showing you that, so that, and it kind of, in a way, it's very proactive in terms of new head coach comes in, team maybe not sure, like you mentioned, no passing game, start losing some games. That kind of chatter starts about, does the team not trust them? Do the team know? So you're basically killing that by putting this out. You know, even when we lose, players are bought into what you're saying, and we're showing you that. And it kind of takes that away, which I think is very clever from the Jags to do that sort of thing.
Yeah. I just think it's just all clicking. I just want the passing game to be a bit better. And even I need to also, I've seen a lot of chatter obviously about Trevor, as there always is with the Jags. But listen, he had no interceptions. He had no turnovers, so I'll take it
Clean
because
game, that's what you need. You just need a clean game.
just need a little clean game. And I'll be interested. We unfortunately don't play the Colts until the 7th of December. So there is a long time before that happens. If they both keep playing as they're playing, that will be an interesting run for the AFC South, which
Yeah,
no one thought anyone would want to win that.
exactly. They've actually got an AFC championship race on. Next 3 games are big for you though. Seahawks, Rams.
Yep.
If you
So
can get 2 out of the 3 wins out of that,
then we're
I think you're
laughing.
in a good position. I think you'll be in a great
Then I
position to
think
get 2. Because after that, you then get the Raiders and the Texans. We don't know what Texans are going to turn up. But yeah, if you could win 2 of your next 3 games, then I think you're in a good position.
And are we now a top 5 defense? Fantasy has us as number 3, so we'll see what happens tonight, and that may move to number 1. I guess other kind of defenses talk about the Steelers
Yep.
were excellent in their first game. Congratulations, Ireland, on your first NFL international game. We're still
What a
working
show.
on for Scotland, but
What
it
a show
looked
that was,
amazing.
and a phenomenal show over Ireland. Putting that on, there's a lot of people in the country have really manifested that to make it happen. Mike McQuaid's been massive in pushing that over there in Ireland, so big shout out to him and all the guys over there that have basically pushed for this, and they put on a phenomenal show, and it looks like the players and the fans all loved it. But
Did you
on the game itself, Steelers defense, like you said, we know the Steelers have got a good defense. Mike Tomlin's always got a good defense. I mean, that's never up for debate. But they were very good against the Vikings. Carson Wentz was sacked 6 times by 5 different players. So that's a start and a half at your offensive line. They're spreading the sacks out across the whole defense. And that offensive line of the Vikings just looks shell-shocked. Wentz is getting no protection at all. So, yeah, I mean, 6 sacks, 10 tackles for a loss by that defence as well, and numerous pass breakups at key points. Their defence across the whole defence, they all stood up. I know there was one specific DB you wanted to chat about.
Oh yeah, Deshaun Elliott was absolutely incredible. I seemed to fall in love with safeties. It's such a weird thing, but obviously he had an interception in the first half on a pass that was tipped by Harmon. It seemed to be like the Steelers defense were kind of all just connected, but if one person was doing one thing, somebody else was then right there doing the next, which I think was a kind of really key point for them. And again, like you're saying, it's the Steelers defense. They are a really good defense, but yeah, he was excellent. And I guess on that, he played such smart football. So obviously on the final drive, he batted away that 4th down pass to Jordan Addison, which essentially just ended their game.
Yep.
And that's it. You have to obviously keep in the moment until the very, very end. And it's those key takeaways that lead to the full picture. So yeah, I thought he was excellent. Obviously, TJ Watt's amazing, but
TJ Watt also got an interception. They ran it for 13 yards. That's a big guy interception going for 13 yards. That's good. Yeah,
love when
like you said, takeaways as well. I mean, two interceptions, 2 fumbles, but 1 was recovered by the Vikings. So they got 3 turnovers in total where they got the balls. That defense, as I say, defense wins championships. Defense wins games in Dublin by the looks of it.
So we'll see. Did you see the funny picture that NFL UK posted? And it was teams records in Ireland.
Yes, I did. That was very clever. Yeah,
I was like,
so if anybody has not seen it, go look at it. But basically, NFL UK and Ireland posted every NFL team's record in Ireland, and obviously the Steelers at 1-0, everybody else at 0-0, and then the Vikings at 0-1 at the very bottom. Yeah, it was very clever. I did like that.
It was a shame. It came down. I don't know if anybody else noticed, but Facebook Messenger went down today for a little bit in the early evening, and we sent it into our group chat. And one of the Vikings fans came back and said, "I'm glad I waited 40 minutes to see what this picture was." And I thought that was absolutely abysmal. Yeah. So
I know
great.
another defence you were raving about, a specific defensive play you were raving about this week in the blue and silver of the Detroit Lions was Aiden Hutchinson.
Oh yeah, I think the defense was 3 turnovers, just constant pressure on Joe Flacco and the Browns O-line, give or take. But I guess they just looked great. I mean, I guess the Lions have looked a bit stepstony, I guess, the past couple of weeks. So it's nice that their defense seems to be oh yes, we are. I remember. I like what you're saying. I remember how to play football now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was a really good performance by Hutchinson. Nice to see him.
Two sacks and also 4 QB hits, including those 2 sacks. I mean, so a great performance by him. But yeah, interesting to see how the Lions, like you said, they've kind of been hit and miss this season. They are 3-1 though.
They are 3-1.
I think the expectations on the Lions this year were really high based on last year, and they've won games, but they've not maybe looked pretty. I mean, it was the Browns last night, so I'm not going to really measure that up against anything. But yeah, the Lions are doing okay. Been helped by the fact the Vikings probably aren't as good as what people were expecting this year either. That due
I
to
know that
injuries is impacting them. So that NFC North is
is
very
still up
interesting.
for the taking. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess while some teams are thriving, as we mentioned, there are probably some teams that are maybe reaching for that panic button already.
Yes,
We are 4 weeks in, so you're now starting to see who's your 1 and 3s, who's your 0s and 4s,
yes.
who's even your 2s and 2s can sometimes look a little bit dicey. So we're gonna do a little fun segment where Dan has given me a list of teams that he has rated on a scale of 1 to 3, 1 being it's getting a little bit it's a little bit hot heated, but we're not really reaching for the panic button, with number 3 being we are smacking that. We are ready to throw up all the flares that we can find to get somebody
Yeah.
to come and save us. So we're just gonna go through them. So we'll start with the Saints.
Yeah. So I have the Saints at panic level 1, which might sound crazy because they're 0-4, right? But the Saints season was written off before it even started. So they've not really changed where they're not where anybody, sorry, they're wherever they expected them to be. So it's like, well, they're not at panic stations 3 because this is where we expected them to be. Do you know what I mean? So they look, like we mentioned earlier on, they looked okay against the Bills for a period of time. Was that the Bills just in second gear? Or was it the Saints actually holding them? Come to that every second when we get to the Bills. But yeah, panic level 1 for the Saints because that is what it is with the Saints, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Somebody who's probably not a panic level 1, the Titans.
Yeah, so the Titans, I've got panic level 2 for the Titans because yes, they've got a new quarterback, right? So that gives them a little bit of grace. But I think people were expecting to see a bit of a step forward from the Titans this year, and it's not really happened because they are still 0-4. I am giving them that grace of having a panic level 2 based on the fact that as a new quarterback and all that, but they were expected to be doing probably more than they have been so far.
Yeah. And where would you put the Dolphins?
I said this before we came on. The Dolphins have their whole own category in this segment. The Dolphins are in panic mode overdrive. I mean, they can't even give them a rating. So, yeah, the Dolphins they have won a game, which I still don't know how, but the Dolphins are in major firefighting mode. They play the Jets tonight. I don't think the result of that game necessarily will determine what happens with Mike McDaniel, but I'm going to give myself a pat on the back here. And I said that he gets to week number 5, which is against the Panthers. And if they lose to the Panthers, he will lose his job. And I still think that is the case. I don't think they pull the trigger tonight if they lose to the Jets, but it'll be another kind of nail in the coffin of like, yeah, he's going. But we've got the Panthers next. Surely we can't lose to the Panthers. If he does, he's gone.
He's gone. I guess let's talk about their rivals then. Where would you put the Jets?
The Jets, so the Jets is a funny one. So the Jets, obviously, that injury to Justin Fields hasn't helped them. They're 1-3. I'm going to put them at panic level 1 at the moment because, again, it's a team in transition with new head coach, um, new quarterback. It's a quarterback that the style of player they're not used to. They've not had a Justin Fields type quarterback. It's been Aaron Rodgers. We've seen Sam Darnold there. We've seen all pocket passers. So I'm putting them at panic level 1 at the moment, but I know the New York sports media will have them at panic level 3 because of the New York sports media.
They just New York everything, don't they? And just turn it
Yes.
up by 1,000 digits. Where would you put the Texans even after their win against the
Yeah.
Titans?
The Texans I've got at panic mode 2, panic level 2 at the moment, but that's only because they won last night. But that win was against the Titans, so it doesn't get them out of that. Until last night, it was panic mode 3. Texans starting the season 0-3 was unfathomable, I think, for anybody in the league to think that the Texans are going to go that. The other reason why I put them at 2, not 3, because that win against the Titans really should just be scrubbed and not included in this. They've got the Ravens, who we've already discussed in great detail tonight about their situation, Seahawks and the 49ers, who I think the Texans, those games are winnable for the Texans. I'm not going to predict that they will win them, but they are winnable games, which will put them to 4-3. So if they had a tougher run coming up, I'd be like, no, still panic mode 3. But I think that win last night, it gets them that 0 off the board, and they've got 3 games come up that they could potentially win, assuming Lamar Jackson doesn't play for the Ravens next week.
I mean, and even if that puts them at 4-3, like the likelihood is, if you look at I know the Colts' schedule's a bit easier, but if you look at the Colts and look at the Jaguars' schedule, that is a likely still we could be first place in the AFC South for 4-3 because it's so flip flopped in that kind of division. So I mean, that could be anything. Okay, well, you mentioned them. You mentioned them talking obviously about the Dolphins, but how would you rate the Panthers?
So Panthers, I have 100% got in panic mode 3. Yeah. Well, people are probably thinking, well, the Panthers are where everybody expects them to be. Yeah, they probably are. There has been some promising signs from Ted McMillan. He does look like a really good receiver for them. But in very average, Pat's team just stomped all over them last night. It wasn't even close. So I don't think it's a surprise where they are, but I think it's panic stations 3 for them. Canales is now 6-15 as head coach over at the time that he's been there. Is it time for a change in Carolina? That's something that I think the owners are probably really considering at the moment.
And where would you put the Raiders on your panic scale?
So the Raiders, I think the Raiders came into this season with a decent bit of expectation. I know they're in a really tough division. I don't think they were ever in any danger of upsetting the division in terms of getting there, but I think bringing Geno Smith in, who's decent enough quarterback, he's got good players round about him. But I said to you before the game, if they thought that Geno Smith was the answer, based on like last night, I'm not sure what the question was. He went 14 for 117, 2 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions last night, and the interceptions were bad. The only shining light for the Raiders is that Ashton Jeanty had a breakout game last night. He showed us what he can do, a couple of great runs, getting into the end zone as well, but he can't win them games on their own. Geno Smith really needs to. I mean, we've seen Geno Smith at the Seahawks. He's a serviceable quarterback. You can know he can do a job, but yeah, the Geno Smith that we've seen last night is taking the Raiders absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, and I guess the other saving grace of the Raiders is Max Crosby, but again, he can't do it on his own.
Yeah, he can't. I mean, he had an interception last night as well. It was an interception, a fumble recovery, but he definitely picked up a turnover last night as well. So, yeah, again, you can't rely on Max Crosby and Ashton Jeanty to win you games.
You can't rely two players, of a massive roster.
I mean, I look at this stat earlier on, I've completely forgot. Give me a second, there was something I was going to say about the Raiders. Let me just pull this back up. Where are the Raiders on my notes? Oh, depth chart. Kenny Pickett is a QB2. So I don't think there's going to be much of a drop off if they decide to change the quarterback. I just wonder whether they'd consider trying Kenny Pickett out to see if it makes a difference.
If it works in the system a bit better.
Yeah, so I think that could be one thing I want to watch in terms of quarterback situation, that Kenny Pickett might go in there and try and revive some sort of season for them, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, you've segued on the quarterbacks. I know we mentioned them, but where are we putting the Ravens on the panic scale?
The Ravens are panic mode 3. Like I said earlier on, their season is hanging by the thread that is
of a hamstring.
Lamar Jackson's hamstring. That is literally what their season is hanging on right now. But even saying that, they've not won a big game this season with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Even if he is fit, his big game Lamar is not turning up again. Yeah, like I said, Cooper Rush isn't the answer. Lamar Jackson can't win big games. He's also injured. They're 1-3. Panic Station's 3 for the Ravens.
Maybe Joe Flacco is the answer. But I guess finally, where would you put the Browns on the scale?
The Browns is an interesting one because I don't think anyone was expecting much of the Browns. I did say at the start of the season I thought the Browns had the better weapons than the Steelers. I still think they have got the better weapons. They just don't have someone to service those weapons is the problem. Another 2 injuries today, so Tillman, the wide receiver, and Carter, the kick returner, injured now, missing multiple weeks. I think it's a knee and an ankle injury for the 2 of them. So that decimates them again. That bench is shouting for Joe Flacco to sit his backside on it because he needs to be stopped for playing. Brian's been banging this drum for about 2 weeks now that Joe Flacco not always needs to be benched, he needs to retire. Dylan Gabriel comes. I think Dylan Gabriel is close to getting a start. Will they pull it this week in London? I think in London might be a smart decision to do it, because he's not going to go up against either a hostile away crowd or he's not going to go up against an expected home crowd. He's basically getting a game on neutral ground as his debut. So that might be a smart way to bring him in, is to let's put him in London where it's a very neutral crowd. There'll be a bit of partisan crowds on both sides for both teams. For very much part of London games are mostly neutral fans. And smart decision to maybe introduce him now and there's maybe not that expectation on him to perform in front of a very passionate Browns home fan base, you know what I mean? So, but to be fair, the Browns fans are wanting to start as well, so maybe give them that bit of leeway as well. So, yeah, I think so I've got them at panic level 2. And the only reason it's 2 and not 3 is the 2 teams that are saving them are the 1-3 Ravens, as we've just discussed. And post games tonight, I think the Bengals go 2-2. So I think that saves the Browns from being panic level 3 because there's another 2 teams in our division that are just as bad as them.
Just as bad as them. And who would have expected that? I guess at the opposite end of all the teams on panic mode, we have 2 teams who still remain on Cam C's. The last teams that remain unbeaten. So you have your Philadelphia Eagles and you have your Buffalo Bills. Philly keeps doing exactly what they did last year. They are just grinding out wins. They are keeping calm. They're balancing that offense and that defense. And then the Bills continue to look like an AFC powerhouse behind Josh Allen. So I guess the question is, Do we think this is potentially a preview of the Super Bowl, or is this just a hot start for both teams?
So I'll give you a bit of my thoughts on the teams, and I'll tell you the answer to that question. So I loved your Cam C's analogy, because the Eagles in the second half last night against the Bucks were definitely not on Cam C's. They had that Jolly Roger chasing after them last night from the Bucks. Eagles looked good in the first half last night. Second half was very worrying for them. Just couldn't get anything going. I think they're something like 43 yards, 27 yards or 43 yards, I can't remember exact number it was, until the start of the fourth quarter. The Bucks had a chance to win this game. They had two chances to tie this game up. One of them was Baker Mayfield threw a terrible pass, which was tipped and intercepted in the end zone. But even then, they got the ball back because the Eagles went 4 and out. But they ended up not getting the conversion on fourth down, which the Eagles won the game, where the good old-fashioned punter runs through at the end zone to waste time on the clock and take a safety, win the game. Like you said, they are doing the same as last year. They're just doing enough. But I think this season it will catch up with them at some point. I don't think they can keep doing it. Last year when they were doing it, they were doing enough, but they didn't necessarily look in a lot of danger in games. Last night, the Bucks really had them on the rope that second half. But the thing is, between now to the bye week's week 9, I think they'll still go undefeated right up to the bye week. But then post bye week, they have the Packers. That's a real challenge for them. But not only that, they got the Packers, then the Lions, and then the Cowboys. But if they get to that point and they're 9 and they'll be 8-0 at that point because of the bye week, then they're laughing at that point. If they lose those 3 games, they're still 8-3. It's not a massive travesty for them. So yeah, I think they'll go undefeated till at least week 8, and then they've got a real test of 3 games after that. Which if they win the 3 of them, then they'll be heading towards an NFC East title anyway, at least, and then probably the number 1 seeds for the NFC. The Bills, I mentioned them earlier on in terms of the Saints. I don't think the Bills got out of second gear. I think the Saints kept made it look close. I think the Saints I thought the Saints almost took the lead at one point, but I think it was pulled back. I think there was a flag for holding. I can't remember what it was, but the Saints scored a touchdown, would have put them ahead, but it got pulled back for a penalty. Yeah, I think the Saints thought they were in a game, but the Bills just stepped up. They just thought, if I finish playing with you now, we'll step up, and then comfortably went and won the game. Pat sticks for them, another win. Then it goes to the Falcons, which we spoke about earlier on. The Falcons, I think the Falcons against the Bills will be an interesting matchup. And then after, Chiefs in week 9 becomes their next big test. Get past that Falcons team in 2 weeks' time, and they'll go to Kansas 8-0. But then after that, the next big test is the Eagles in week 17. So I mean, that back end of the season for them, I won't say it's easy, but every game's a game that they should be winning. So beat the Chiefs in week 9, they'll be going to the Eagles potentially 15-0.
15-0, which I mean, but then does it become the Bills that can't get out of the playoffs again because they come up against teams that know that can play.
Yeah, it is, but I don't know. The Bills just seem to. I don't know what it is with them. They just can't seem to, like you say, get over that line. But at the start of the season, I said that it would be a Bengals and Vikings Super Bowl. I jinxed the quarterbacks, made a bit of a fool of myself with that prediction. But I'll try to be looking out of the box thinking, come on, give us something different, give us something exciting. Because a Vikings with JJ McCarthy and Joe Burrow led Bengals Super Bowl.
Oh, wouldn't it have been amazing?
They didn't expect to be watched, right? It's not happening. So I don't see the Eagles getting to Santa Clara. I just don't know. I don't know who does. I just don't think it's Eagles. If I had to pick another team, maybe say the Packers. Probably a good position to get there. I don't think the Eagles make it. The Bills, can't see anybody stop them. Really can't. Unless the Chiefs step up and become the Chiefs that we know, I don't think there's anybody else in that AFC that can stop the Bills.
No.
And like I said earlier, I think the Ravens season's pretty much done, so I don't see them being in the playoffs against the Bills.
Yep. I guess your only really contenders left after that is obviously the Chiefs, what you said. Obviously, you've got the Chargers, who are still playing. They bet the Chiefs, which is something that Josh Allen struggles to do. You've obviously got the Colts, who are playing well but in a weaker schedule, so you have to kind of obviously take that with a pinch of salt. Then you've got the Jags, which will obviously come down to how they can play against the Chiefs on Monday. Well, next Monday, not Monday. And then really after that, you've got a lot of like that kind of we're good teams, but do we beat other good teams? Yeah,
apologies to Steelers fans that are listening. Watch, I forgot your 3-1.
Sorry.
2-2. The Steelers are 3-1. I said they were 2-2 earlier on the 3-1.
3-1.
Again, those teams, the Chargers could be off the Giants last night. Not taking anything away for the Giants, but if you can't beat the Giants, you can expect to beat the Bills. Yeah, those teams are, they'll come up against those teams in the playoffs. But if you look at that AFC, every team plays their best game. The Bills come out on top in every game, I think. The Ravens are the only team that could potentially have disrupted that, but I'm writing the Ravens off at the moment. So for everybody that's left, I even think now it's a mentality thing with the Chiefs and Josh Allen. But if you put both those teams head to head and they both play their best possible game, I still think the Bills come out on top. So yeah, I think the Bills may as well book your tickets to Santa Clara now, and everybody else may as well book their tickets to Cabo because that's where they'll be going. But yeah, so the Bills, yes, Super Bowl. The Eagles,
The
I don't
Eagles.
think so. So I don't think it is a rehearsal to the Super Bowl. What about yourself? What do you think?
I don't know. I could see it happening. I don't know if the Bills will get there. I think I really rate Josh Allen as a quarterback. I think he's impeccable. I think he's so good. But they always find a way to lose in those playoffs. I don't know what it is, but they always, even at home, they always find a way to lose, even when they are the top. And I could just see that happening again. And I think I agree with you on the Eagles. I think there comes to a point where just winning is not enough, and it will come to a head at some point. Now, you are right, though, they could get all the way to 8-0 and then lose 3 games and stuff like, well, we're 8-3, so
Yeah.
it's all right. And who's really their competition? So I still think the Eagles are going to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, 100% for that. Yeah.
It's just what the playoffs do for them. But I guess when they come back in week 17 when they play each other, and that'll give you the answer.
We will
won't
be
it?
here. We will be here. We will rewind. We'll rewind to this segment. The AFC Championship game, the NFC Championship game with the Eagles and the Bills win. We'll rewind
There we
back
go.
to this and go, we said it wouldn't happen.
But here we are. But I
Yeah.
guess, to be fair, so you're going to suggest that in week 17, when they play each other in the regular season, you said the Bills and the Eagles play each other, you're going for the Bills to win.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
is that in Buffalo?
Question. Give me 2 seconds and I will tell you. The Bills are, yes,
It's in Buffalo, and it'll be snowing.
in Buffalo on the 28th of December.
It'll be snowing.
Of course.
The Eagles can't play in the snow, but it'll be snowing. It'll be a minus.
I genuinely think if the Bills can beat the Chiefs in I think it was week 9, I said, wasn't it?
Aye.
They could host the Eagles in week 17 undefeated. They're looking at their schedule. I know it might sound daft, right? After the Chiefs, right, the Patriots, the Falcons, and the Panthers. So the Falcons could be an interesting one, but if you get through that, they then play the Chiefs, and then it's the Dolphins, the Bucks, the Texans, the Steelers, the Bengals, the Pats, the Browns, and then the Eagles. Tell me one of those teams that you think could beat the Bills.
I mean, maybe. Well, okay. I will say the Patriots will be interesting because it's a division game, and division games are always sometimes a bit funny.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. I mean, we could maybe the Bucks.
The Bucks have got a chance. But the Bengals, if Joe Burrow's back, have got a
Well,
chance.
yes, there's a
I
chance.
still think the Bills win both those games.
There you go. And then we will just have
The Bills are going to go undefeated this season.
fully undefeated. They will be. I don't even remember the last time a team went undefeated
The
and then
Dolphins
lost in the playoffs,
Minnesota, or whatever it was.
and then lost in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's it. Number one, you'd be one and done because they'll get the buy in the first round of the playoffs and then get beat off
Get
some
beat
random, like the
off
Broncos
of the
or something like
Colts.
that, come through and beat them.
or something, or the Chargers, or whoever. Great.
To be fair,
Don't we
all
just
my
love it?
hot takes this season have been absolutely horrendous. But I did get Jackson Dart right, and I do think I'm going to get Mike McDaniel right next week if he doesn't get sacked before then.
And I think I've got Joe Flacco right. So there you go, everybody.
Tune in every week on episodes for the hottest takes that sometimes make absolutely no sense, but may make sense in the future.
In the future. Just wait and see. I guess we've started to look ahead anyway, but let's look ahead to week 5. So
Yes.
I'm gonna give my first game, I think, to watch, and then we will bounce back. We have two
Yes,
we have 2 each. So I'm gonna go obviously and say that I think Monday Night Football, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Jaguars, is going to be an interesting game because I just think it's going to be absolutely wild to see if the Jags defense can stop Mahomes. Even when we weren't the potential number 1, number 2, number 3 defense in the league, we still managed to hurt Mahomes. So the likelihood is it can happen again. So I think that's going to be really interesting. The Jaguars are fully out trying to fill that bank up, all of Jaguars fans. And I think that will be a great matchup on Monday night next week.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I've already probably spoke about my 2 games in considerable amount already in different segments of this.
Yeah.
The first one I'm going to go is the Giants and the Saints. Might not sound like an intriguing match or an interesting game to watch for the purists or the neutral, but it is purely to see what Jackson Dart does. Obviously, we've got a bit of added interest being the NFC East to see if the Giants can legitimately continue this run into the Jackson Dart. Like I said earlier on, he's going to be expected to now go and win this game. So for me, it's been interesting to watch that to see how that one plays out. I don't think the Saints against the Bills was much. I don't think the Saints are an improved team. So the Giants, in theory, should win this. But interested to see how Jackson Dart deals with that pressure of being expected to win after basically having that free hit against the Chargers. Might not be a great game for the purists or the neutral, but from a storyline point of view, Jackson Dart's going to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. I seem to be picking all the main games because my second pick is going to be Thursday night football, which is the 49ers at the Rams, which I think is going to be an interesting one. It's the NFC West continuing. Both teams are sitting at 3-1 right now.
Yeah.
Because I think this week's kind of bit shook the 49ers a little bit because they were the favourites going into that game. So I think they need to obviously try and get a bounce back. And obviously the Rams had a great win against the Colts last night. I thought that was really impressive from them because that was a back and forth. The Colts who hadn't punted the entire season and they managed to stop them. I thought Puka Nacua was excellent. Absolutely ridiculous. I thought Matthew Stafford looked excellent
there
as
was
well.
one pass that Stafford threw to Nacua right down and was within the 10-yard line, and it just how did he
come up with it?
Where to put the ball in? There was only one position he could put that ball, Nacua could catch it, and he literally put it in his hands. It was a ridiculous throw and catch.
Yeah. And then I guess the other thing to think about is it's a short week road game for the 49ers. And I know they're only travelling to LA. It's not exactly they're travelling miles away, but it's a back home game to the Rams. So I think it's in the Rams' hands to win it. But it'll be interesting.
And I've not picked this next game. I'm just going to reference this based on your point. I've not picked this as my game. In the NFC West, there's 3-1 teams. The Seahawks are 3-1 as well. The Seahawks host the Bucks as well. So in theory, that's a really tough game for the Seahawks. Whoever wins that Thursday night football game could potentially lead the division by a game based on the Seahawks don't manage to beat the Bucks. Yeah, so a bit interesting.
And a game potentially, and I have that game advantage over the person that's going to be second in that division, which is key for them there.
So the other game I've picked again is a game I've mentioned for different reasons is the Dolphins at the Panthers. So yeah,
that's I just want to see him sacked.
I think that could be the last game for either of those head coaches. I mentioned it earlier. I think the Panthers are potentially looking at changing up there. Dolphins really need to be looking at it. So if Mike McDaniel survives the Jets tonight, survives it, I feel that the loser of that game next weekend will be looking for a new head coach, and that's purely the only reason I've picked that game is because it's massive implications for both franchises, not just based on the result of the game. It is literally it's going to result in, I think, a new head coach for either team, which is going to be massive for those two teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, week 4, who would have thought it? What a great week. I know, it feels like as we're getting closer to that Super Bowl, it seems that everything's just kicking up a gear. So it's always a good thing to see.
Yes.
A whole variety of teams on 1 and 3, kicking about the 2 and 2 mark. So it's always great to see. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Dan, for joining me this evening.
I just want to say one last thing before we wrap up. Sarah, we've talked about undefeated teams. One undefeated team that we've not talked about this weekend was the GB women's flag team who went to the Euros, were undefeated, and were back-to-back champions. So congratulations to the GB women's flag team for retaining their European crown. Some phenomenal performances, and defence really does win championships, as we've seen in that final. Went to overtime, went to a 2-point conversion for Austria, who they went for, and Marta Matthews came up with a massive pass back down to win the title for the women. So congratulations to them. And the men, they finished 4th in their bracket, so it'll be a great performance for them. A team that we spent a lot of time with over the summer, me and Gav down at the camp. Great to see them getting a result, and that means that both teams have now qualified for the World Championships next season. Congratulations to both teams, all the players, coaches, and all the staff involved with the programmes. Yeah,
it was absolutely amazing. I said this to we have a group chat with some of the girls in the women's Team GB squad, and I messaged them to say the noise that left my mouth on that bat down pass was absolutely wild. I think I woke half my street up, and it was at 4:00 in the afternoon. It wasn't even that late.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the whole tournament, there was some very nervy moments from both teams. I mean, the men won it with a pick 6 in the quarterfinals, pick 6 to seal the game. The women down. The Austria, they were that first half. Austria really had them on the ropes, and then they come back in that second half. But unbelievable performance. Like, I don't think I've ever felt as nervous watching flag football as I did over this weekend. It was crazy. I mean, it just like that final was up there with any game of American football you'll see this year in terms of drama, comebacks, performances, plays, catches, interceptions, back downs. It had absolutely everything. It was
Everything.
probably one of the best games of American football at any level and any discipline that you'll see this season.
Absolutely. Yeah. So big congratulations to them. It was an incredible win for the women, and obviously the men getting fourth was absolutely incredible considering the fact where they had been previously. So yeah, big massive shout out to all of them, and we are very very proud to have you guys representing us. And Dan, do you want to tell the nice people, where we will be this weekend?
Oh yes, this weekend we are at Meggetland in Edinburgh. Scotland under 19s are playing against SGS Pride. It's part of the Bath under 19 regional series. There's been a lot of they've had to make a couple of changes at the last minute in terms of the opponent. It was meant to be Team Midland. It's now SGS, who are kind of what you would class as the elite academy in the UK before the NFL Academy became a thing. So they're coming up to play against Scotland in Edinburgh on Sunday. We will be there doing the PA, being the game day hosts, as Gav has that's the label he's given us, and we'll be doing a lot of social media content. So keep an eye on our socials and also on the BAFA socials and Team Scotland socials over the weekend. Yeah, so for that game, Megaland on Sunday, kick off 12 o'clock, doors open at 10:30, so make sure you get your tickets. Under 16s get in for free, so bring the kids along. Adults, 16 and overs, £7.50. Last year they had a phenomenal crowd. I think they had about a crowd of about 400 last year at the game that we covered. Great atmosphere, we'll be there doing other things, so get along, support Scotland under 19s, and we will post the link to the tickets on our socials over the next day or so make sure you get along.
Exactly. So yeah, looking forward to that. I think the weather's going to be meh.
It's
So
okay. I'm going to be up at the back of the stand with a microphone in my hand, keep nice and dry.
it'll be me running about with the umbrella. Great. If it starts raining, you can find me running about with my little camera, my phone, and my umbrella. But yeah, it's busy weeks, a couple of weeks for us. So thank you to everybody for your continued support. Be sure to follow us on all social media. You can find us at Heart and Touchdown. And for that, we will say goodbye.